We've always told scary stories. It's just part of who we are. They've been whispered around campfires, bound in old leather books, and crackled over the radio. But now, in our digital age, a whole new kind of monster is crawling out from the glow of our screens. The way we tell the stories might be different, but the fear? Oh, that fear is ancient. So let's trace the DNA of that fear, from the printed page all the way to the cold, pixelated screen. Believe it or not, that line was written way back in the 19th century, but it perfectly captures that feeling we still get, right? That split second where you see something so awful, so wrong, it feels like it's from another reality altogether. That, right there, is the heart of horror, and it's a feeling that has evolved in some truly fascinating ways. And this brings us right to the main event, creepypasta. I mean, if Gothic literature gave us our classic monsters like Dracula and Frankenstein, then the internet has given us these. Think of them as our modern folklore. They're our digital ghost stories. And what's wild is that they're not born from a single author's mind, but from the collective, sometimes anonymous, consciousness of the web. So this is the big question we're going to dig into. Are these internet nightmares something brand new? Or are we just using new tools, Photoshop, blogs, forums, to tell the same terrifying tales that our great-great-grandparents told? Let's break it down. Okay, so our first theme is probably the most primal fear of all. It's the terror of what we can't fully see, what we can't understand or explain. It's that shape you see in the corner of your eye in a dark room, or that noise you hear from upstairs when you know you're home alone. So in this classic story by Arthur McInshane, the horror is so intense, it literally cannot be described. The character dies from just the sight of something. And notice the author doesn't tell us what he saw. He leaves it blank. Why? Because our own imagination will always fill in that gap with something way more terrifying than any writer could ever put on a page. And then you have the yellow wallpaper, where the horror is just maddeningly vague. The narrator sees a woman trapped behind the pattern in her wallpaper, but it's just a shape, a hint of a form. It's this partial, incomprehensible sight that completely unravels her mind. See, the horror isn't some monster jumping out at you. It's the slow, creeping dread of something you can almost, but not quite, figure out. So, how has this ancient fear adapted to our world of constant connection and information? Well, the monsters may have changed, but their power still comes from that exact same terrifying ambiguity. And of course, that brings us to the Slender Man. What's actually scary about him? It's not just that he's tall or wears a suit, it's his face. It's a total blank. He has no expression, no obvious motive, and no clear origin story. He's just a void, and we project all of our deepest fears right onto that empty space. His power comes directly from everything we don't know about him. And then you have the rake. The whole creepypasta is told through these little fragments of evidence, like a supposed mariner's log from the 1600s. This gives you this sense of a scattered, ancient history that you can never quite piece together. And just like Slender Man, his motives are a total mystery. It's just this raw, animalistic threat that shows up, destroys lives, and then vanishes, leaving nothing but questions and terror behind. All right, for our second theme, let's turn inward. Because let's be honest, sometimes the most terrifying place isn't a haunted forest or spooky old house. It's your own mind. That fear that you can't trust what you see, what you hear, or even your own sanity. Edgar Allan Poe was the absolute master of this. This quote from The Telltale Heart just perfectly nails that feeling of your senses betraying you, where your own mind becomes a receiver for things that just shouldn't be there. The horror isn't just about the murder he committed. It's about the narrator's chilling, terrifying conviction that he's the only seeing one in the room. And this is the unreliable narrator in action. That beating heart he hears, it's all in his head. It's his guilt, making a sound that exists only for him. As the reader, you're trapped inside his collapsing mind, and you're forced to question every single thing he says. You don't know what's real and what's a hallucination. So now, let's see how that internal, sensory horror gets a modern digital twist. The Wyoming Incident is a creepypasta about a piece of media that physically attacks your mind. The story claims that a mysterious broadcast hijack caused people to get actually physically sick, to have hallucinations. The horror here isn't a ghost, it's a signal. It's a frequency that can literally break your brain. Ted the Caver is just a perfect modern version of a descent into madness. It uses the really intimate, this is actually happening to me format of a blog to document this guy's psychological breakdown. We watch almost in real time as his sense of adventure turns to unease and then to pure outright terror. And that final post where he just says he's going back in with a gun and then silence, it's so chilling because it implies that his mind, or whatever was in that cave, finally got him. So for our final theme, let's look at the horror that you can actually hold in your hands or, click with your mouse. Stories about cursed objects have always been these great cautionary tales, right? They warn us against messing with things we don't fully understand. And this is the OG, the classic. The monkey's paw is the ultimate cursed artifact. It grants you wishes, sure, but it twists them into something awful, something monstrous. The lesson is timeless. Be careful what you wish for, because some powers come with a terrible price. But how does that idea even work in a world where our most powerful artifacts aren't carved from wood, but coated in bits and bytes? Well, in the digital age, the whole idea of a cursed artifact has exploded. It's not just one physical thing anymore. Now it can be a so-called lost episode of a cartoon, a haunted video game cartridge, a cursed image file you're not supposed to look at, or even a specific ritual you find online. The artifact isn't an object anymore. The artifact has become the information itself. Ben Drowned is basically the perfect digital age monkey's paw, a haunted video game cartridge. It's an object so many of us grew up with. The story works so well because it takes something familiar and nostalgic and just infects it with this malevolence, something that can actually bleed out of the game world and into our own reality. But this story takes it even one step further. Here, the cursed object isn't something you buy, it's a place you visit online. It takes a digital space that we use every single day, YouTube, and twists it into a gateway for absolute horror. The terror is the violation of a safe, familiar place. It shows us that even our web browsers aren't safe from the things that go bump in the night. So when you put it all together, what have we seen? The medium changes, right? The monsters get new names, new faces, or no faces. But those core fears, the fear of the unknown, the fear of our own minds breaking, and the fear of cursed knowledge, they stay exactly the same. The fundamental shift is really clear when you look at it like this. We've gone from stories with one author and a fixed text that never changes to these anonymous, collaborative creations where the lore is always evolving. The simple act of copy and paste isn't just about sharing the story, it's about participating in it. And maybe the biggest change of all is that we've gone from being passive readers to active participants who can actually be part of the story through things like alternate reality games. So the next time you're scrolling late at night and you come across a scary story, just remember its roots. You're taking part in a tradition that is as old as humanity itself. The only real question is, as our technology keeps blending more and more with our reality, what new shape will our ancient fears take next?